Welcome to Talking Buffalo, featuring conversations with guests from around the world of sports, media, pop culture, and all things Buffalo. With your host, Patrick Moran.
All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo sports talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Big thank you to everyone out there, as always, for watching and for listening, for following and subscribing. I appreciate you guys very, very much. If you happen to be up late on a Sunday, we're actually on the video side streaming this live. Of course, this will drop in podcast form in just a few hours. As usual, during this Buffalo Bills season, I'm joined for our post-game reaction show by Joe from Queens. We're going to have a hell of a lot to talk about. What a day, man. What a game. A lot of stuff to get into. How you doing?
All right.
Gotta
have my beer. Gotta have my beer.
That's the tradition.
Yeah, I'm having, I know you're about to ask that, but I'll get ahead of you. I'm having another heady top that the IPA I always have. That's like, this one's a limited edition. This was 10% alcohol, which I only had 10%. 8. So yeah, it's, you drink it from the can. It's a heady topper, Alchemist beer. It's from Vermont. It's 20th anniversary. And yeah, I'm breaking out the I would say it's kind of good. Man. Yeah, because it's we went to Vermont back in May, and again, I'm nursing my beers. I haven't been drinking them as well as I should be. We got a bunch, or I did. I should say I did. My wife doesn't drink beer, sadly. And yeah, it's a good beer. And cheers. Bottoms up, buddy.
10% alcohol, man. That is like, say if you drink just a regular, I don't know, Bud Light or a Miller Lite or something like that, that's like more than double. Isn't that like around 4%, 4 point something percent?
Something like that.
It's like more double. Like when someone's that strong in terms of alcohol for a beer, does it lose some of the taste?
No, because this is how I like IPAs. I know you don't like them, and that's what a heady topper is. It's basically like a badass IPA. It's very foam. It's very like when this beer reaches like Buffalo or any beer store kind of anywhere, there's either a limit that you can only have a couple of them, like to buy them, or they just sell out very quickly. So this is very popular, but it doesn't lose its taste. I mean, I like the taste. I mean, sure. I'm sure, I know that you are weird with your beers and you're progressing a little bit because you want to shill. You want to shill for Stevie Johnson's beer. You want to shill for Eric Wood's beer. You want to shill pander to all these breweries. So I respect that. If it gets you to the table, we're good. But I enjoy the 10% alcohol. Why not? Like, dude, why do I want to have like flat 5 beers and like, I have a good buzz.
Agree. You're gonna get filled up. You may as well feel good while you're doing. Yeah, so I get it. But
to wrap up beer talk, I do want taste before I want to get blitzed before anything. Sure. Yeah. So just so we're all clear, everyone.
If you happen to be watching this live on the video side, and if you're catching us on Twitter, if you want to jump in and leave a comment, we'll get to some of them on the show. I'll save some for the end as well. You'll have to go to the YouTube channel. So go to Talking Buffalo on the YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that like button while you're there as well. Leave a comment, and we'll try to get on the show.
Yeah. If it's a good question, like leave us one. We'll address it at the end. We want to try to get questions in, and we'll address them at the end. And
sure.
Yes. Pat doesn't care, but I do. I want to at the end to have like a finisher of like mailbag questions at the end. But
yeah, I'll try to save a couple for the end. If there's a couple that are pertinent into what we're talking about at that moment, maybe I'll squeeze them.
Pat's terrible at reading or the comments and like posting them. Like I see them come up like for a half a second. I'm like, who the hell is this? I see Colleen and
I try to get them up on the show. So but sometimes they don't really fit what we're talking about, and more people still listen to this in podcast form. They're like, what the hell are you even talking about on the video side? But anyway,
very true.
Let's talk big picture first of all. Okay.
Big picture.
Bills win 30-27. It doesn't matter if it was 41-3 or if it was 30-27. The Bills pick up a big victory. It's always a big victory against a divisional rival. The Bills are 7-2 on the season. Meanwhile, I still cannot believe I'm saying this. Miami's toast in the AFC East. They're done. They're 2-6. The Bills are 7-2. They've been swept by Buffalo too, so they'll lose any tiebreaker. The Miami Dolphins, in terms of the AFC East, are done. I would have said Joe, if you would have told me by Thanksgiving the Miami Dolphins would be out of the hunt in the AFC East, I would have said, really? That, man, they're having a pretty shitty year, and the Bills have been pretty good. It's election day. We're still 36 hours away from the start of election day. The Miami Dolphins are 2-6, and the season technically is not over. I mean, they could go on a run if they can lose one more game down the stretch and win all the rest. They could still finish technically to go like 10-7, maybe to get in as a wild card. But in terms of winning this division, the Miami Dolphins are toast, man. I'm stunned. The Jets won last Thursday, so I can't call them quite toast yet. They're almost toast. They're pretty much toast too, but big difference between,
Yeah.
6 as opposed to 2-7. But I'm stunned that the Buffalo Bills right now are 7-2. And for all intents and purposes, you can start printing those playoff tickets because they're not letting go of this division with the schedule. They still play the Patriots twice. Still got the Jets at home. They're winning this division. If you win those 3 games and don't win another game the rest of the year, that's 10 wins right there. That's probably going to win you the division. It's just what a stunning development to be in the first handful of days of November. And the Bills essentially have wrapped up the AFC East already. Start there.
Yeah, I mean, we started that. We've been talking about that for the last couple of weeks. I give Miami some credit. Like, I thought they played a pretty good game today, and
Sure. We'll talk about that. Yeah.
We'll talk about that. I would say the one thing I want to take away from this, the Miami, because we've talked about them running away with the division, the Bills, for a while, and yeah, it is shocking. It's shocking how Miami. I think a lot of it. Look, Tua getting hurt did not help them at all. Like their offense was terrible without him, and you saw how much they've been more efficient the last 2 weeks. Easily with Tua. But I like to say this, I think of the Bills have now, including the playoffs, they have won 13 of the last 14 games against Miami. And these 2 games this year, Josh Allen to me didn't play his best in either of those games in comparison to what he would throw for 300, 4 touchdowns, obliterate them. And I sometimes get lost when I think about New England a little bit here and the Brady era. And I'm like, man, I hated it. It was terrible. The Bills always lost to them. And then I kind of sometimes forget about how the Jets and the Patriots the Dolphins went through the same shit. Like they weren't very good during the New England era. They made the playoffs a couple times and they were kind of mediocre. And now when you think about if you're a Miami fan or, their players or whatever, you just came out of 20 years of Tom Brady dominating the division. Right. And now all of a sudden you jump into Josh Allen's been kicking your ass. And look, that's 7 years basically that they have been dominated by the Bills. That's half the drought right there almost. And the entire drought was the Bills getting dismantled by New England constantly. And you have to feel, I don't feel for Miami fans like the hell with them, obviously. But in terms of they're probably sitting there like, what is this about? They just can't beat the Bills. 13 out of 14 games they have lost against them, including the playoffs. Yeah, just that one game in 2022 that was kind of a fluky game that the Bills outgained them by double the yardage, and that's when Tua got
injuries.
Yeah, and
10,000
degrees. It was a kind of a messed up game, but that's how I look at it. If you're Miami, your division's toast, blah blah blah, but you have to be thinking about it as, man, how can we go from Brady and now we go to Josh Allen and we can't even, they can't even come. They can't. Everything was lined up for them today, and we'll get into that. But and they lost, and it wasn't even Josh Allen's. But even the first game of the year wasn't they plummeted more so. They self-destructed that first game, I think, more, and the Bills' defense just dominated them than Josh Allen killing them. It was just you have to. If you're them right now, you're like, what the hell?
I get it. Yeah,
that's kind of what I take away from this game. Sure. They're gone, but in terms of maybe they can make a run in the playoffs, and they've kind of had that done in the past where they've won a bunch of games in the second half of the season. Miami sometimes, even though it didn't happen last year, but to them, you got to be looking at this and going, man, we just got swept again by the Bills. Yeah, and even when Josh Allen wasn't Josh Allen. In the first couple of years of his career, he dominated them too, and that's how I look at it in terms of the Miami kind of connection for them.
Agreed. Yeah, for sure. Look, so this was a tale of, an offense. They sputtered early, like we've seen a lot this season. This was a carbon copy of the Buffalo Bills early in the game that we've seen way too often this year. But in the second half, 4 drives, 4 scoring drives. touchdown, game-winning field goal, and they needed, obviously, every single one of them. I thought the defense on this day stunk, minus one play by Taron Johnson, which was a huge play in this game early in the third quarter. We'll talk about that in a few. Before we get to the obvious Tyler Bass, because I definitely want to talk about him, obviously. I say this only semi-sarcastically, but big thank you to Jordan Poyer, because I'm going to tell you, man, so it's 3rd and 9, Joe, okay? It's 3rd and 9, an incomplete pass to Keon Coleman, and you're punting if you're the Bills. You're punting from your own 31-yard line with 54 seconds left, and Miami still has 2 timeouts. Let's just say they successfully flip the field, and Miami gets the ball at the 25, 30-yard line with 46, 47 seconds left and 2 timeouts. The way this defense was playing on Sunday, Miami, and they got a good kicker, there's a good chance that Miami wins that football game. Jordan Poyer, with that penalty, like literally turned the football game around. It kept the drive going, one that the Bills ultimately won. And I'll tell you, we're going to talk about some officiating too later in this, because I'm getting really sick of the officiating just killing the flow of football games now. It seems like almost every week. But this penalty by Jordan Poyer, a guy who I've always liked, he's one of my favorite players. I can't keep saying it on the show. I say it all the time. But that was like you can bitch about the referees on a lot of stuff, but that was a no doubt penalty. I almost feel bad for Jordan Poyer. Now, maybe he doesn't care, and if he doesn't, good for him. But I went about a half hour or so after the game on Twitter. I was on TweetDeck, and I typed in Jordan Poyer just to kind of get a vibe for what Miami fans were saying. And holy shit, dude, they hate that dude. And it's been going on for weeks, man. What a, it was his dream. Not his dream. He was a Buffalo Bill, but he always wanted to get back home to Florida at some point. Obviously, his wife, Rachel, was dying for him to get back to Miami. She loves Miami. That's where they live. But what an ultimate all-time, if you're a Miami fan anyway, what a disaster that signing has been. It's not the same Jordan Poyer anymore. And it was kind of funny to look at some Bills fans' comments, like he's a double agent right now, helping the Bills win. Zeron Neal had a pretty big holding penalty on Khalil Shakir in the end zone the drive before that as well. But look, without that play by Jordan Poyer, without that mistake by Jordan Poyer, if you're a Miami fan, obviously, this game probably doesn't end the way that it did. I don't know. Tone Pucks, by the way, your boy. He sent a text after the game. I had to laugh at it. I'm not talking politics on the show, but he did have a pretty good quip. He goes, Jordan Poyer with the second dumbest thing he'll do this week. meaning how, meaning what he's going to do.
I love Tone Pucks.
I thought that was kind of funny. But yeah, dude, Jordan Poyer blew it. Let's just call it what it is. And that was a no doubt penalty. There's no defending it. There's no saying the refs made a bad call, soft call. Big penalty. Jordan Poyer helped the Bills a lot.
Yeah, I think, I think he had another personal foul in the first game against the Bills for a helmet-to-helmet hit, too. So two games now he's had it with the Bills with helmet-to-helmet hits. I think for him, look, it's obvious you're toast. We know that. We've talked about that before. But I think what you see is that when you can't cover, you're not a center fielder anymore as a safety, you start trying to maybe take some shortcuts a little bit. And maybe you're like, F it, I'm just going to blast this dude. And I'm not going to get there, but I'm just going to blast him. And that's kind of, I feel like that's a little bit of his game right now. And that's not, I can't even recall many, this probably happened, like him getting personal foul penalties here in Buffalo in terms of late hits or helmet to helmet. Maybe he had some. I don't remember it all that much. But
physical dude. Yeah, he's had some. Just not. Yeah,
but I'm saying he can't cover like he used to, and I think he's trying to just be like, well, I can't get there, so I'm just going to obliterate someone. You're trying to get that extra inch, but whatever. I don't know. I mean, it was a dirty hit. I like him too, like you, in terms of a player, as and I won't get into any specifics on Twitter.
Keon Coleman got hurt on that play, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, it was a dirty hit. He's. It's
his wrist. He had a. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. But he had a wrist brace on after the game. He took a good shot there. There was a part
of me that's thinking Jordan Poyer is one of my favorite Bills of all time, but he's also one of my least favorite Dolphins of all time with these dirty hits and kind of. Like you said, he couldn't wait to get down there, and he wanted to get down there a couple different times, and he trolled.
He didn't do it. It's fun to say, double agent, still helping the Bills out after all these years. He didn't do that on purpose. He was a split second late, and he made in a real time, bam, bam, bonehead decision to do that. It was a bad play all around. But anyway, were it not for that play, my point was,
Yeah, the game would have been, they would have got the ball back.
With 45 seconds left, say their own 20, 25, 30-yard line, and they had 2 timeouts. They had a great chance to score on a defense. Again, that just wasn't making literally any stops whatsoever. Look, all right, let's get to Tyler Bass. During the game, all right, so Tyler Bass, he misses the extra point.
Sure.
He has one go in off the upright. I literally, I can't pull up tweets. StreamYard's got an issue. Otherwise, I would have been pulling up. I had some Google slides that I wanted to put up, but there's some issue going on that I can't load them on the server. Anyway, I was going to call myself out, but I know I'm not alone. Tyler Bass hate going on during the game. I said, he's got to go. He's got to go. He's got to go. I said that 3 times with a bunch of dots. At one point, and I even tweeted this, I took the time to go to overthecap.com and look at the Carolina Panthers, find out who their kicker is, look at what his contract was, which is cheap. His last name is Pinero, by the way. What his contract status was. And I literally tweeted out, if I'm Brandon Beane, I'm sick of hearing about linebackers and safeties and DL. I am going, if I'm Brandon Beane, I'm trading Tyler Bass and a draft pick because you're going to have to give up compensation to get rid of him. And I'm going to go give me a kicker. That's going to be my trade deadline move. I'm going to get a kicker on a shitty team like Carolina that's going nowhere. Just he's had a bad year, dude. He's 2 of 5 going into this game from 40 yards and beyond. Misses his 3rd extra point of the season. And as fate would have it, the less I thought Tyler Bass, I said, sooner or later he's going to lose us a game. Ain't nobody thought, including you and I, that this guy was going to not only hit a game-winning field goal with 5 seconds left, but a franchise record 61-yard field goal, the longest made field goal in the entire history of the Buffalo Bills franchise. God, that was, first of all, just to win the game was amazing. But to win it that way, to me, was even more important. If Josh Allen threw a 16-yard touchdown pass at Dawson Knox or Matt Collins or Kincaid at the end of the game with 5 seconds and you win, you're relieved, you're happy, you're pumped, you're excited. But for Tyler Bass to get that moment, that redemption moment, and hit one from 61 yards in that stadium erupt, because these fans have tried to pick him up. You saw it a couple weeks ago, that home game against Tennessee, how loud they were cheering for him. Holy shit, man. What all the feels. What an emotional, actually a legit emotional moment. Josh Allen was almost teary-eyed when they showed him on the sidelines talking after the game. Tyler Bass, they showed him in the locker room. He's crying after the game when Sean McDermott gives him a game ball. You can't draw it up any better than that, dude. 61-yard field goal. Holy shit, dude.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't believe he made it. I mean, I literally, I'm watching it, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. He's gonna miss this probably, and I'm like, he kicks, and I'm like, wait a minute, that's got a fucking chance, and he kicks it right through. And I mean, the thing I'm thinking now is like, what do you? If they had got, part of me was thinking to myself on that drive, like, if they get to the 40, if this is like a 45, 50-yard field goal, and he misses it, he's effed. Like, in terms of, like, they better hope they win in an overtime, because then he's effed. I was kind of thinking that a little bit, like, man, if they lose,
does he get cut?
No, not in that scenario that I just happened, where he, like, they get to, like, look, if he missed a 61-yarder, no one's gonna give a crap. Like, it's 61,
right?
You know, but if he gets to, like, if it's like a 45, 50-yarder and he misses it and they lose, that's going to be tricky. And that's the thing now. It's like, are you, I feel bad in a way, because, I was trying to think of, like, I was thinking of Hauschka. I remember when he was here, his last season was 2019. And I remember he kind of didn't have a good year, and then he lost his job to Bass in the offseason, or he lost it in training camp. And, like, I don't even remember there being this, like, oh man, like this pressure on him. He was faltering a little bit. Like, and he did falter. I do remember that. But where with Bass, because expectations are way higher than they were in 2019, when, like, it was Josh Allen's second year, it just feels like every miss he makes, like, it is like, the Bills, in a way, I don't want to say this. I get what they've been doing, but they haven't. You sign a kicker and then you cut the kicker, which is super weird. Like, it's kind of like, why'd you sign the kicker and then you didn't want to cut the kicker? Like, you were trying to send a message. Like, is that what you were trying to do? You weren't sure. And, it's kind of like, there is so much the vibes are weird right now with him making missing field goals. It literally feels like it's like that, like get the guillotine ready, like it's over soon. Like for the
It's
and it's just
cringy. It feels
it's
cringy at times with
yeah,
him.
and like I don't know what's. I feel like I don't want to say everyone needs to breathe, but there is a part of that. But also at the same time, if he misses a game-winning kick, what happens if he misses a game-winning kick? Then are we going to sit there and go, well, you should have got rid of him? Or are you going to say, well, he made a 60-yarder. You got to keep him. Like, what are you supposed to do? Like, what does this buy him? This buys him, like, what, another month of if he's mediocre, he's going to be fine. And, I wish we could figure out, like, what exactly his issues have been. Because, I don't want to sit here and go, it's all confidence. Like, I don't feel freaking clue. I'm not a kicker. Like, I don't know if it's like technique or anything like that, or like, they got the special teams coach changed over like 2 years ago. I don't think brought in some sort of science into that. And that's why he's been struggling, because he shouldn't be struggling. He's not an old man. He's not like Hauschka or Ryan Lindell on year 13, they're 34, 35, and their leg falls apart.
They cut their practice squad kicker earlier in this week.
Yeah,
just a
that's what
couple
I mean.
days ago too. It's like that's a vote of confidence, but then he misses it. I'm like, what? When he missed that extra point, I'm like, it's over. I kept thinking in this game, I'm like, trade deadline, they're going to trade for a kicker. There's no good kickers out there to sign. Trade for one. That was my mindset. I legit thought that. I mean, I bothered to look up contracts. Yeah, it's cringe city. Joe, does this kick potentially turn his whole career around? I mean, he's a hero now. Right now he's a hero. He made he literally set a franchise record. Confidence, his mind to feel the love, so to speak. I might be corny, but it's not wrong. The love from the fans in that stadium, his teammates. I'm sure he's going to see that video of Josh getting teary-eyed talking about him, and the locker room, the love he got. Yeah. That's the kind of shit that might turn a career around for him, man. Because I think he was mentally shot. I mean, he's good physically. He got a good contract because he's got a strong leg, but I don't know. It's just crazy. You couldn't draw this up any better. This is the way I would want to win a game, because I've been scared, and I still am a little bit, that, hey, they're going to blow a kick in the playoffs, and that's how they're going to lose, and that's going to be the end of the season. So if you could win a game in any way, I would have said, give me a Tyler Bass franchise-setting 61-yard field goal. You couldn't draw that up any better to win a close game.
Yeah, it was a great moment. I mean, I think it's something that we're not going to forget anytime soon. Like, it's been a while since the Bills have won like a dramatic game, like at home. I can't even think of the last like dramatic home. I mean, I guess you could say the Cardinals game. I mean, it wasn't that dramatic, but like,
are you a poker player?
No, not really.
A little bit. Like, like if you play like Hold'em and you need a 9 on the river to catch an inside straight to win. That's how I felt about Tyler Bass making that field goal. It's like, that's the last thing I thought that was going to happen. Like, the odds of him making that kick felt like they were going to be.
It's a 61-yarder. Even if we had like faith in Tyler Bass, I wouldn't be like, oh, good luck with that, dude. It's 60-fucking-1 yards, but he did it. So it's just good. I mean, good for him. Good for the team, and I'm glad like it went well for him. And with Buffalo fans and like in general, like they really do like to rally around someone who's been down in their luck, especially with one of their own, like in terms of, as long as you're not a prick or anything like that, but sure, they'll rally around you, and they've rallied around him. And that's a hell of a kick. I don't know if it's going to change his career or anything like that. Like, obviously we'll see what happens in the next couple of weeks, months, or whatever. Sure. But I don't know. Hopefully, like I said, I don't know why he's been this way the last, like, even into last year, but just get touchdowns, and then we won't have to worry about that shit.
I agreed. I agree. Real quick, a comment. Mark, who's watching it live, says, too much kicker talk.
Yeah, I agree with that, Mark.
I agree. There are bigger problems, but look, man, kicking has been a problem this year, and it was a matter of time before he lost the game. And in an hour, he went from potentially losing a game to literally winning a game. I thought that was big. All right, but he's right. Let's continue. You mentioned Josh Allen. So, again, not as it was. This is kind of a weird day for Josh Allen, because I felt like he wasn't his best, but he was still more than good enough. All right, so listen, 13 for 20, 156 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a pretty good game. That's his second half. That's what he did in the second half. 13 of 20 for $156 and 3 touchdowns in the second half. Now, granted, one of them was a 63-yard touchdown to Ray Davis. He got the ball. He just ran through Marcus May, and I think it was Fuller. What a great play by Ray Davis. That gave the Bills a 20-13 lead. I will say on that play, though, Josh, sometimes he takes that check down late. He saw that early. He got it to him early. Perfect throw in stride. Led to the big Ray Davis play. So you had that. And then I don't know. It just becomes almost routine with Josh Allen. That touchdown to do to Quinton Morris. He's getting hit by 3 people.
Yeah.
Dawson Knox is covered. Like he's going to run. He's going to take a hit. He's going to lose yards. And then all of a sudden he flips the ball to only where Quinton Morris could get it. That is just such vintage Josh Allen. Anyway, 25-39 for the game, 235, 3 touchdowns, an interception that was not his fault. Not the best Josh Allen, but again, more than good enough. He just finds ways to win. He just looks, dude, he looks comfortable. Do you notice? Do you sense? Maybe you don't. I don't know. I just sense that he's enjoying himself this year, and it's not necessarily a knock on Stephon Diggs. It just seems he's never been more comfortable than he is this year. He doesn't seem to get rattled. Nothing seems to rattle him at all. Anyway, a strong performance from Josh Allen. Not an elite performance, but a very strong one.
I thought it was a good performance. I mean, a couple things. One, he didn't have a good first half. He had 79 yards passing. I know you did the math for the second half.
Yeah.
I do think he missed Amari Cooper a lot in this game. They had no down the field passing at all today. Like if you look at the wide receivers and like they aside from Keon Coleman's 1 catch for 21 yards, they didn't have a wide receiver go over 10 yards per catch at all today. Like they did nothing down the field. And I think he missed Amari because look, you can do all the cliche stuff like, hey, you missed like people got to concentrate on him and like it opens up for other people, and he is a guy who can kind of do both, like go deep or intermediate routes and all that sort of stuff. He had a very gutsy game where like when there was a little bit of that I don't know how you define hero ball, but it felt a little bit like that at times, like him scrambling and running, like the touchdown, like the Morris, him doing that, even a couple of his runs. I don't know if I would say he looked totally comfortable. I thought in the second half he was better. He didn't do much in the first half. Part of it was they didn't really have the ball that much because Miami had some long drives.
It was pre-Amari Cooper offense. It felt like the first half. It was like that. We've seen this a lot. We've seen it a lot this year.
And
still
even
scored 30 points. Though.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like just unreal. Like he scored 24 points in the second half, 6 in the first. Like it's just like there is those moments where I had
that nitpicky part of Josh Allen's career where sometimes you got to nitpick to really come up with stuff.
I mean, I don't think I'm nitpicking, to be honest with you. I just think it wasn't on him. I'm just saying they didn't have really down the field passing. It's a fact. They didn't. But
sure,
he did a lot of good things on his own. Like I feel like he did a lot of like Sandlot, like kind of making plays on his own, buying time. They scored on all 4 of their possessions in the second half, as you said. They're a second half team. It's crazy this season, like how they have been that way. Like I
hate when they get the ball first. They never play good offense when they get the ball first in the first half. Tortured Bills fan. And by the way, I have been collecting a lot of comments. We'll get to plenty of them near the end of the show. But this one, it says Allen had a lot of throws that he shorted, should have been completions. That's accurate. That last field goal, that last throw, I think it was Kincaid who was open. He shorted that throw. That 61-yard field goal could have been a I don't know, 42-yard field goal or something like that.
You would have had issues though, because they would have had to spike the clock. There was only 10 seconds left when he missed that ball, so that could have been an issue.
Right, he would have gotten out of bounds. But yes,
hopefully, because he did dive for it. But yeah, he did short. I mean, it wasn't his best game, and it was fine. But like there were throws he missed. They were definitely, like I said, he didn't have Amari Cooper there. I think that made a big difference, and you could see it. And they did not have down the field passing at all.
Agreed. I agree with you for sure. They definitely missed the presence of Amari Cooper. I will say now, Khalil Shakir, such a slippery dude. God, I love that dude, man. 6 catches for 50 yards. That ain't gonna blow you away. But there were 3 of those 6 catches at least. He should have been stopped right at the line. He did that quick screen, little bubble screen twice, and he wiggled out of trouble and ended up getting 8, 9, 10 yards on a play that looked like it had nothing. He produces. That's what he does. I want to give, Dalton Kincaid 4 catches, 32 yards, whatever. All right. Again, we talked Ray Davis. big catch, 2 catches for 70 yards, 4 catches, or he ran the ball too effectively. I think he ran 5 times for 20 yards or 5 yards a carry, something like that. Anyway, I want to tip my cap a little bit because, look, blasting week after week after week, Matt Collins is such the low-hanging fruit. It's easy to do, and it's been deserved. I mean, he only had 1 target in the last 2 games combined for good reason, because good things are not happening often when you throw him the football. But to his credit, this game, when he had to step up a little bit at least, between Cooper not playing, Curtis Samuel literally being absent yet again, that's another conversation for another day. Well, Matt Collins had 5 catches for 30 yards. He had a touchdown catch. He had 2 catches on that last drive, including a 3rd down conversion, which was obviously a big play. Didn't have any drops, and he also drew 2 penalties. So I think Matt Collins deserves, like I said, a nice little tip of the cap here. He certainly was not Amari Cooper, but he gave the Bills something on offense that they definitely needed today. Again, 5 catches for 30 yards, a touchdown, a couple clutch plays down the stretch. Good job by Matt Collins.
You want me to be nice to a cat hater?
Yeah.
Is that what you want me to do? You want me to be the person who hates cats? Yeah, he was fine. He made a touchdown. I got nothing else to add to that. Yeah, he's fine. Sorry, dude. Like, you lost me at I hate cats. My apologies. But yeah, hey, fine.
Yeah, I get it, man.
He was fine. He was fine. Like, I wasn't like the passing game. Like I said, it like no one had like there was no down the field passing for the wide receivers. I thought if there's anything I don't read your rundown, so my apologies. I know you sent me notes, but Ray Davis, that guy's a player, and I really like. They got some nice running backs on this team right now. Like the trio. Like someone sent me like the New Day. I don't know, like in terms of like Kofi and Big E and like Xavier Woods. I don't know, like whatever trio you could think of. But it's a good core, and Davis is a guy like, man, I'd like to see him on the field more. But like I like James Cook too, and those guys to me like really did a really good job today. The running backs in terms of like. Helping. I mean, in the passing game, they've been really. I will give the Bills credit. Like, unlike the last couple of years, where under Dorsey and even Dable, they didn't really get the running backs involved in the passing game. Whereas, Brady has done a good job in getting his backs in the passing game a lot more involved, which I think is really critical.
Yeah, for sure. Let's take on the video side anyway. Literally a 4 or 5 second break. We'll be right back. I want to talk about having to overcome themselves yet again. That's been another ongoing thing with the Bills this season, and a defense that just looked incredibly flawed without Christian Benford. But honestly, I don't even think that was a factor in the Bills' defensive play at all in this game. Be right back. All right, I am back here with Joe from Queens. This is our weekly post-game live reaction show. The Buffalo Bills beat the Miami Dolphins 30-27. They're 7-2. Miami is 2-6. Their AFC title hopes, East title hopes anyway, are completely dead at this point. So having slow starts for the Bills offense has become a central theme for a lot of this season. And again, we need to be careful, because at the end of the day, they scored 30 points, and 7 of them came off 1 turnover that the Bills forced, but still they had to go down the field and score. So they're putting up points. It might not look as sexy, throwing the ball down the field like you said. They're not doing that. They didn't do it in this game anyway. Didn't necessarily matter in terms of the score. But yeah, man, they have to overcome themselves too damn much. That Keon Coleman drop, you're going to have to live with that with a rookie receiver. Just the type of player he is. He's going to do a lot of good things. We saw that in Seattle. We've also seen some mistakes that he's made. Early in the season, he got benched for a quarter. He had a ball go off his head in Houston. This was a quick slant, and he didn't look quick enough. The ball hit him in his hands. It bounced down and ended up being an interception. That ended up being a 14-point swing because Keon Coleman scoring on that play. And instead, Miami takes over at the 3-yard line. The most annoying part of the whole day for me, that 14-play, 97-yard drive took over 8 minutes of game time. Miami goes up. It's a 14-point swing. So they have to overcome that. James Cook drops a pass that if he did catch it in stride, he probably catches that corner. We have to look at the film to see for sure. But everyone who was at the game covering the team says that probably was a touchdown for James Cook. He drops that. 2 holding penalties, although terrible calls, man. So I can't really. Still, they had to overcome it, and they on that drive actually they didn't. But Von Miller goes offsides on a key 3rd down play to keep a Miami Dolphin drive going, where they ended up scoring. Again, they missed an extra point at some point during this game. This is just it feels to me at times the Bills are their own worst enemy. That makes sense to you? Like they have to overcome themselves as much, other than the Baltimore game, I feel like, than they've had to overcome the opponent all season long, man.
I mean, when you have, they have now a resume of having terrible first halves or first quarters. Like they showed the graphic midway through, the game, that they have like a negative point differential in the first quarter. And, when you turn it on in the second half, like they have been, like, yeah, that kind of can say like you're your own worst enemy, especially at different junctures of the games and of the season. I would say like long term, you list like, look, Keon Coleman, it's a drop. He needs to have that. It happens. But he's been good. I'm glad McDermott, at least, I don't know what the snap count is, but I did see him on the last drive of the first half, which I was a little concerned, like, oh shit, McDermott's going to bench him for like 2 quarters to make him think about it, because I'm not a fan of that sort of nonsense. But
he didn't get a target for quite a while though. After
he
that,
didn't, but he did play. But like no one, look again,
Yeah.
none of the wide receivers were lighting it up today. So I digress with that.
Did catch a 2-point conversion.
My biggest thing is that the defense just has some issues, and I really think if you want me to crystallize everything, if you're playing a dual threat team that can run the football well and pass the football well, the Bills are in trouble on defense.
Yeah.
I think going back to the Baltimore game, going to this game, even they just have issues stopping doing both. Like last week, look, they kicked ass against Seattle. They stopped their running game. They averaged 1 yard a carry or something ridiculous like that. Why? Big part of it was Geno Smith didn't have his best wide receiver there. And then this week they can't stop Miami, which is Miami's a pretty good running team. You got to respect them. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say you're everything you said is right. Miami's offense is good though. And they're just, look, they sucked for a month because they had Huntley and Skylar Thompson and whoever the hell else was their quarterback. When they got their quarterback, they're a high-powered offense. So I'm still disappointed. I'm not that stunned. Before we talk defense though, because you talk about the the holding penalties that overcome themselves. What do you feel right now in terms of the officiating, dude? This just, again, 2 bullshit holding calls. Taylor Rapp had a personal foul, hit helmet to helmet. It was literally Mostert who lowered his head. Taylor Rapp literally did nothing wrong, and he got a call. And there were also a couple calls that went the Bills' way. They were terrible calls. Rasul Douglas got away with murder on the first drive. I can't believe he didn't get called for a holding penalty. Miami got screwed on a couple calls as well. Officiating has become such a problem in this league. You would think with the advancements of technology and all this stuff that's going on to modernize the game, that officiating wouldn't have such an impact. But week after week, we're seeing, just watching the Bills alone, these officials are, for the most part, taking over these games. They got to find a way to these ticky-tack calls, scale them back, let the players play more. I'm sure it's frustrating to them. It's frustrating to the coaches, but even as fans watching this game, it just disrupts. There's no flow to the games half the time anymore. It's frustrating to watch a football game with these officiating calls. Do you agree? Is this as bad as you've seen as far as you can remember with officiating?
I don't know if it's as bad. I mean, remember the replacement refs and how terrible that was, and they had the foul Hail Mary from a long time ago with Russell Wilson and the Seahawks, the Packers. It's just it's been bad this year, and I think the problem is that the league has curtailed. They are so desperate for offenses to be really good. And how do you make offenses really good? Sometimes you call a lot of penalties. And I think that's where you're at. Like all of these calls are on the defense, or on like in terms of like the late hit with Rapp, like was like, what the heck is this? And like, you have like other issues. I don't know. Like I feel like maybe the rule changes because they try to let things like they're really stressful on holding, but yeah, it's been shitty, and it kills the flow of the games. And the holding penalty like that negated the Josh Allen touchdown. That was a great touchdown run, and because of that stupid call,
it wasn't a hole. It wasn't.
it
That's
wasn't
not
even a
being a
hold.
homer. It was a bad
It was a bad call.
I get the blows in the head, even if they're ticky-tack, or even though some of the hitting the court, well, some of them are just ridiculous. But to some extent, I can understand that you're trying to protect the players, but they're over-officiating with these little defensive hold calls that are barely even contact, and especially the offensive holding calls. Like, there needs to be changes. Like, unless it's somebody's grabbing somebody and dragging them down, these holding calls, it's frustrating, man.
The only thing you could do, and this is like, you have a review system. Like, maybe you review touchdowns and like, oh, hey, like that got negated, and you review touchdowns and go, okay, let's review a touchdown and see if that was really holding. Or like, look, the personal foul ones, like when you have like a late hit or helmet to helmet, that's something you can kind of review. Or face mask, like, like if you have last week, what was it, the Darnold safety, or I think it was Darnold, like when they have it with
Darnold,
the face, the face mask, like you can review that, because like that's like either you grab the face mask or you don't. That's a reviewable call. I mean, that's the only thing I can really think of, because like, as I said, I think the more time the league wants more scoring, and sometimes you have to do that when you have a lot of penalties, and you have to call penalties, and you want less holding, you want less hitting. Look, the league doesn't want to have hitting. I made the joke that Jordan Poyer, like on that one late hit, even though it was a correct call, like, the dude thinks it's 1997 again, and like it's not. Like every year, it's 5 years from now, this is not going to look the same in terms of like what the NFL looks like today. They are going to get even more. Like, let's like eliminate hitting. We don't want people to get concussed. All this sort of shit. It happens every offseason. We're like, can't leave the crown the helmet and all this sort of stuff. But yeah, overall, like, if you want me to complain about the officiating was bad. It was bad today, and it does
bad this season.
It's been bad. And look, it's been bad this season, and there's nothing like, I don't know, like that call sucked in the first half. Those couple of calls, like those are, who knows if Miami scores on that one drive. The Bills get a touchdown on that drive, but they didn't. They ended up getting a field goal. It could have changed the whole complexion of the game. I don't know if it would have. But yeah, the officiating, it was kind of in favor of Miami. And, you kind of hope that in totality, at the end of the season, it's going to even out, or whatever you want to call it. But I don't know what you can do, man. Like, look, you could try to figure out reviews if you want to on certain penalties. Like I said, hey, if you want to do reviews on holding penalties that result in like a touchdown, maybe you can do that. And maybe they'll say like
something though.
But it's all subjective. It's all, this is a stupid league that you're in. This is how it works.
It's not even, and it's not even that like calls went against the Bills. The Bills had some calls that went their way. Like I said, well, the Poyer thing went their way. Saron Neal had holding in the end zone on Khalil Shakir. That led to a Bills scoring a touchdown. It's not like they didn't get calls too. It's just, as a fan, every time I watch a play now, I immediately,
you're just waiting for a foul. Yeah, you're just
trained down to look at the bottom of the screen and see, wait for the yellow flag. It's just freaking annoying, and it loses any flow and continuity to a game. You mentioned the defense. Again, I want to give Miami credit. When Tua is on that team, that offense is really good. They got arguably the best receiver tandem in the NFL. They got really, really good running backs. Their offensive line, when healthy, is good, and they were healthy, and they played well today. The Bills' defense sucked. Let's just call it what it is. Taron Johnson made a huge play, turned out to be a big difference in the game. He knocked that ball, a nice peanut punch out of Raheem Mostert's hands, and they converted. That was early in the third quarter, and in fact, that was the first drive of the third quarter, and the Bills ended up scoring a touchdown and taking the lead. So it was obviously a huge play. That aside, this defense sucked. They gave up 149 yards rushing, 4.8 yards per carry, 224 in the air, so 373 total yards. He only forced one punt. Devin Achane was unstoppable almost. 12 carries, 63 yards and a touchdown. It 8 catches out of the backfield for 58 yards and a touchdown. The Bills had no answer for him. Tua was good. 25 of 28 for 231, 2 touchdowns. Tyreek Hill, 4 catches for 80 yards. Nothing crazy, but still, he was productive. Miami got in the red zone 4 times and scored 3 touchdowns. That's not good enough. They gave up in the second half when the offense stepped up. Defense didn't. They gave up field goal, touchdown in the second half after the Johnson interception. They stunk. The bottom, especially the front 7. Ed Oliver, DaQuan Jones, nothing. Horrible. Von Miller absent in his return. Jordan Williams continues to struggle. This is a problem. that light box against good teams, I think Miami exposed that some, man. If you're going to run a light box, your defensive line's got to win battles up front. And I felt like they didn't win any battles, especially the defensive tackles. Ed Oliver, and it's been a while since I bashed him on the show, but Ed Oliver was garbage in this game. So is DaQuan Jones. This is not good enough, dude. They're going to be in a lot of trouble if their defensive line plays like that going forward.
Yeah, it wasn't a good game for them. And as I alluded to earlier, and sorry I overstepped it. I decided to look at your rundown. I was like, oh, I'm going too fast. My bad. I got to start doing that more. And I always mess that up. But I digress. Yeah, look, they had issues, and this is the third time this year. Look, if there's offenses, and look, they did their job the first game, the first go around, the defense did. But like the better offenses this year that they've played, in my opinion, Baltimore, Houston. I think Miami's a good offense. Like I know, like a good
Very
game.
good offense.
Yeah, and they've had issues. And Miami's running backs killed the Bills. I remember, like, I think I looked this up, like with like a couple minutes left in the first half. Like Miami's running backs had like 144 yards in total offense for their two running backs. They were the leading wide receiver. They were the leading receivers, and they were the leading in rushing. Like, and then Hill got better in the second half, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But I think if you spread, you talk about, light guys in the box. Yeah, like spread the field and run the Bills. Like you can't stop them. And to me, the Bills are kind of lucky that we live in an era where a lot of teams want to throw all over the place and not really commit as much to the run. Because if they play a team that's committed to the run, or like I said, both sides of the ball they're good at in terms of running and passing, they have issues. And they had no pressure on Tua today at all. Like one sack. Tua's a guy that normally gets sacked a lot.
He got sacked because he fumbled the ball, snapped. That's the only reason why he even got
sacked. Exactly. That was the only reason why. But they had no pressure on him whatsoever, and it was ugly, and it's a concern for me. And I'm thinking, like last week, you asked me like, what do you want in terms of a trade? If we do another trade, I mean, it's Tuesday, the deadline. Give me another defensive lineman. Like I think I was saying linebacker depth. Forget that. Like give me some defensive linemen. And I think they missed some beef up front a little bit. They don't have a space heater, I think, as of right now. Von Miller, I don't know. He was totally invisible. He had a killer offsides penalty that we alluded to earlier today.
Yeah, it was third and 3 when third down and 3, and it was an incomplete pass too. It would have been 4th and 3 if Vaughn didn't jump. He gave him a first down.
Yeah, it's just. I think there's definitely some, and look, you're hoping the cavalry when Matt Milano comes in at some point, but they had their guys in today, like Bernard played and
everyone except Benford.
Yeah, Benford, yeah, and that was a big deal. Yeah,
Tyler Edelman hurt the Bills today. I thought he played perfectly fine.
Yeah, if he had turned around that one throw, he could have intercepted.
He got a finger on it. He got a finger on that one.
He needed to turn around.
But considering what could have happened against those talented receivers.
But the Bills have issues, I think, on the edge. Like if you run them to the outside, they have issues stopping the run. Period. You do on the edge or anything like that or underneath. Baltimore to me exposed them when they like did a lot of up the middle runs and like to the side and like short passes. They have issues with that right now.
I mostly agree with you about the light box thing. I don't have a problem with the Bills playing a light box so much because, again, you want a team to have to go 14 plays and beat you that way. They're not giving up anything over the top. This whole season, we're 9 games in now. They've given up one over-the-top passing play all season, and that was the Houston game when the rookie Cole Bishop made a mistake and got smoked by Nico. But here's the issue with me right now with this Bills defense and the run defense. You mentioned the Baltimore game, which you're right. In this game, too. I don't completely agree about the edge. I think AJ Epinesa was somebody, in fact, I'll read the comment right now. Georgia Bills fan says, another Epinesa disappearing act. Yeah, he was silent. But to me, the bigger issue is if you're going to play a light box, you got to win on the line of scrimmage. The Bills last week in Seattle won on the line of scrimmage. They were winning. The defensive tackles were winning. They were taking away holes. It was nowhere to go. And guys like Taron Johnson, well, last week it was Spector because Bernard didn't even play. But Bernard's better than Spector. Those guys come up and they fill those spots. Dorian Williams really, really well. But this game, I'm telling you, one of the things I'm going to look for the most when watching this game film on Monday, Ed Oliver and DaQuan Jones, and especially Ed Oliver, just nothing. Ed Oliver probably had maybe 3 yards of penetration. I said this during the game. The whole entire game, standing at the line, just getting pushed around. DaQuan Jones got twisted like a pretzel a few times. Eli Anku was by far their best defensive tackle. That should not be happening. Ed Oliver and DaQuan Jones, if you're going to play, 5 DBs every play, your defensive tackles have to be a lot better than what Ed Oliver and DaQuan Jones were today. Good players, terrible games. And going forward, that's going to be a problem. You cannot stop a team if you're going to play a light box with mediocre to bad defensive tackle play. And that's exactly what they got today. That was frustrating.
Yeah, it was frustrating. And, they have what? They got the Colts next week. Who knows what happens with Joe Flacco? I don't know. But the Colts do know they got some. They can run the football a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got the freaking Chiefs. The Chiefs are after that, correct? Am I right?
Yep.
After the Colts, yeah. Yep. So it's not.
Colts are up as we tape this. It's third quarter, but the Colts are up on the road right now at Minnesota 7-0. By the way,
yeah. So I mean, who knows with Flacco? But yeah, they're kind of underneath. Like I said, I think you spread the ball, if you spread the field and you run out like a 4-3-4 wide receivers, you can get the Bills. But here's the thing about here's the one thing I'll say this. Like you talked about how hey, they don't give shit over the top. Like great, but in a weird way, like you're getting all these you're giving up these 12, 13 play drives. You're not getting Josh Allen on the field then. You know what I mean? Like what's worse? Like let's give up a big play so you can at least get Josh Allen on the field and he can get touchdowns to dictate the game. Like that was a problem in the first half. Like the Bills just didn't have the ball that much in the first half. And obviously, look, they had some red zone issues in the first half. They kind of cleaned that up in the second half. But yeah, I mean, like if you're giving up those plays, you don't get the ball into Josh Allen's hands, and that's kind of an issue. But it is a concern for me a little bit, in terms of like what have I been bitching about since 2020, since we've been doing this podcast, a McDermott defense. Like when they play a decent offense, they have issues. When they're playing against the bums of the world, they're kicking their asses.
Agreed.
And that's a little bit of a I know I'm looking at your rundown, but there's one thing I wanted to bring up, if that's okay. What the challenge by McDermott at the end of the game? Like, what was that with the Tua? Like, that was a bad challenge. I don't know.
It could have hurt him too. That timeout at the end of the game could have mattered on that last drive. They spiked the ball that kind of forced the issue with downs in time at the end of the game because they had one less timeout. I think he just didn't have time to hear from upstairs, and I think he panicked, and it was a big fourth down play. It was really close. Sure. So maybe he took a chance. Yeah, that was your typical weekly Sean McDermott McDermott
kind of screwed up a little bit there.
It is what it is. I want to go back to this defense though real quick here, because here's the thing with Taron Johnson. All right. You play this light box, and you got to kind of live with the sword, die by the sword. If you play 3 linebackers and you don't have Taron Johnson on the field, he's the best slot corner in the NFL. He's a physical guy. He makes plays. He did it today again. He's a playmaker. And if you got 3 linebackers out there, he's not playing nowhere near as much. So you kind of got to sacrifice personnel. It comes down to, like I said, it comes down to Oliver and DaQuan Jones up front. And it also comes down to Dorian Williams, who for back-to-back games now has not played very well. I'll confirm that when the film comes out on Monday. And Terrell Bernard was back, and he had some moments in the second half. But he wasn't Terrell Bernard that we've seen most of the past year and a half or so. I don't know if the ankle had a little something to do with that, but he was out of position. He was a little bit late getting the stuff. He wasn't shooting those gaps and beating offensive linemen to the spot like he's so good at. Add that all up. Plus, again, you got to be a little careful with Hill and Waddle out there, and it's just there to be successful. Bills suffered a couple injuries too. Keon Coleman was spotted with a wrist brace on. Freaking, what's going on with the wrist things now all of a sudden? Benford didn't play because of a wrist. Cooper didn't play because of a wrist. Coleman might have some kind of wrist issue now. Smoot got hurt during this game as well. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, he did not return. That might, depending on the severity, I thought they're done with the trade deadline's Tuesday. I'm like, I don't think they're going to do anything. Maybe they might add a little bit of depth. But if there's something significant to Coleman by chance, and I sure hope there isn't, or maybe even Smoot, but more especially Coleman, you might see another add to this team, because Curtis Samuel's just not it, man. He's not it. No catches, no targets. What is he doing on this team at this point? I have zero confidence in him, and clearly Joe Brady does as well, because there wasn't nothing designed for him. or anything. And I don't think the player's a scrub. He's just not on. It's just Buffalo's not a good fit for Curtis Samuel. It's just as simple as that, man. He's just a nothing burger again.
It's odd that that's the case because he did decent in Carolina with Brady. Yeah, I don't know what's up with Samuel. I definitely do think. I wonder if there's like a guy on the street. Like, look, last year around the deadline, they kind of did the Fournette, Rasul Douglas trade, and then they signed the guy Lavelle Joseph. Right? Is that they signed him off the street?
Yeah, off the couch.
I wonder if there's like a defensive lineman off the couch that's been chilling. That's like, I don't want to do training camp and call me when you're ready. Like when on the run, like if that could be like the move for them for defensive line. Like get another fat guy. Like I think that's what they need, dude. They need another fat guy in there. They need another fat defensive tackle.
They got one. His name's DaQuan Jones. He needs to play better.
Okay, well Pat DaQuan is a little bit older now. Like he's not a spring chicken as he used to be. And I've had concerns a little bit about him because he's in his 30s, and that's not a great time to be in a defensive tackle in this league. So yeah, he needs to play better, sure. But I'm saying I feel like that could be what the play is going to be. Is they're going to go and find a guy off the streets. Maybe was an all-pro once in his life or something like that. Maybe I don't know who's out there, but
because of the way we structured this conversation, talking about the offense and putting up 30 points first, and then going back to the defense in the back end of the show, it kind of feels almost a little bit gloomy, like this team lost. We're not taking away from the fact the Bills beat Miami, which is always a big win. They put up 30 points. So all's good at the end of the day. But yeah, there's to say there's not concerns is an understatement. Let me get to, before we get out of here, a handful of comments that people have been leaving out throughout the show. These were back-to-back ones. Ralph, because we're just talking about the Bills being really shitty at running or stopping the run right now. Ralph Wilson Sr.
Oh, he's back from hell or heaven, excuse me.
Says, this is funny, though, because this is true. Kind of to my point. He says, Jonathan Taylor is licking his chops for next week. And then immediately after that, John Sanders comes in the chat and comments, so was Kenneth Walker, and he got 12 yards on 9 carries. That's a really good point, which kind of goes to what I was talking about. If the Bills on the defensive line up front win their battles, I don't have a problem with them playing a light box. Kenneth Walker's a good running back. He didn't do shit against the Bills.
Yeah, I'm not going to complain about Jonathan Taylor because Jonathan Taylor ruined my bachelor party. In 2021, what? Yes. In 2021, for my bachelor party, I've explained this, but you don't listen to me. But for our new listeners, my bachelor party in 2021 was at a Bills game. We got a camper night, and we stayed for the Colts-Bills game because I was like, they should win that. The Colts had Carson Wentz, and it's a nice revenge game, and the Bills got obliterated, like 41-7. And Taylor, like, I think had 200 yards rushing in that game. Like that's where a lot of my empty, run the ball on the Bills, throw and spread the field and run the ball came from. Because I feel like that's what they did a lot of. And so yeah, Jonathan Taylor's got he is like a game ball against the Bills from that terrible game and ruined my bachelor party in terms of that. But yeah, we'll see what he does. And again, Flacco, I mean, I don't know. It's like hard for me to respect Flacco, but whatever. I mean, I know he did well last year, but if he's like what he was last year, that's a mad issue because, as I said, when you could do both well, running and passing, I think the Bills, they got to pick their poison. What do they want to do? And I think they have issues in regards to that. But yeah, the Colts got some good running backs.
Sure. Yeah. Again, no issue with the personnel, just an issue. You got to play better. Hopefully Bernard will play better. Dorian Williams play better. You got to play better up front. The Bills have been prone to running backs having big games against them. That's for sure. Chooch says, no Cooper, no Benford, no Bernard. Bernard did play, but and still found a way to get a W against a desperate Dolphins team with Tyler Bass, ironically. Good for him. Yeah, we talked about Tyler Bass. It is good for him, and that is true about the Dolphins. Look, I said it before the game. I was concerned more than anything else coming into this game about the laws of averages, the laws of gravity, which some people disagreed with. Sooner or later, Miami was going to find a way to win, but it wasn't going to be on this day. And in fairness to the injuries, I will not use the injuries as an excuse because Zach Seiler and Javon Holland, an all-pro safety, they didn't play for Miami either. So that defense was very,
I felt
very
pretty
short-handed.
good going into this game. I had the Bills. I picked the Bills 31-17. I did do that before finding out Cooper and Benford were out, and I was like, ooh. And then I was kind of like, it might be a 7-point win. But I was pretty confident throughout the game today that they were going to win. Like, I wasn't even panicking in the last drive. I was kind of like, yeah, they can do this. They always beat Miami.
Sure.
I mean, it's now into that. Pat, like you and I are old, and we remember like the Super Bowl era with the Bills, and there was a good like chunk of it, like they dominated Miami, and I was like, they're gonna beat Miami. They always beat them during that era, and
Yeah.
I kind of feel that a little bit now in a way.
It's fun as a Bills fan. It is fun to beat Miami. It is fun to own Miami. It is fun to see their fans lose their shit. I had Marek Brave on the show, who writes for the Finsider, and just the way he was talking about the Bills, it was like inevitable. He felt like it was inevitable. Ultimately, he ended up being right. A couple more comments. Sean Ryder said Tua played really, really well. Got to give him that.
Absolutely.
I agree. I mean, he didn't throw bad foot. I don't recall him throwing like a terrible pass that should have been picked. I don't recall him making any bad decisions. He was checking the ball down. He was getting rid of the ball quick. That was a beautiful throw to Tyreek Hill down that sidelines. That was their biggest play of the game. Yeah, Tua, look, he didn't do nothing to lose the game. That the Dolphins defense is the reason why they lost, man. So, yeah, man, props to Tua. It was a good game for him. Mark says, these are back-to-back comments that I'm going to take issue with from our friend Mark here. He says, Cooper missing this game was painfully obvious. In a way, yes. You explained it. In a way.
No,
in a way.
It was. You
All right, well, they scored 30 points.
Okay, but like it was obvious, like in terms of the passing game. Like, yeah, they scored points, but I'm just saying, like, you want to see nitpicky?
They're better with him on the field. I'm not denying that. And I do think he opens up. Like Kincaid didn't play as well today. It felt like maybe with Cooper. So I'm not saying that it didn't have any effect on them. Sure, but to say it's painfully obvious, I have a hard time.
All right, you have an issue with the say painfully. Okay, fine.
And then Mark also said Bernard is overrated. He's good, but not great. I do not agree with that whatsoever.
You know what? I was thinking about this while I was walking my baby today. Do you at all think, like, we think Bernard's undersized, right? Like, you would say that he's undersized.
Yes.
Do you at all think it's because his jersey's 43? And if he had, like, a linebacker traditional, like, 55 or 57, like, he's fine. Like, I'm sorry, America, and all the linebackers coming into, like, the football, high school, all that shit. Do not pick a 40. As a linebacker.
What about
that is bad?
6? Miami's linebacker, I forgot who it was. No, the name escapes me. He wore number 6.
I don't know.
Linebacker number 6. That's high school shit. My son wore number 9 when he played linebacker.
No, you gotta have a 50. I want to see Terrell Bernard in a 50 jersey. I want to see and look at him in comparison to a 50 and a 43. I bet you he looks bigger in a 50 than he does in a 43. Because 43, that's a safety number. That's what it is. It's a safety number. Like, and all these number changes, I like. Some of them are cool. Like if you're a cornerback and you're a single digits, that's awesome. That's like Deion Sanders, Florida State. But linebacker, no. There is no. It's 50. It's 50. That's it.
I agree.
Sorry.
Let me get to a couple more here. Mark said, I do like Joe from Queens, but where is Tone Bucks? And then JJ94 said we need an episode.
Absolutely. Pat won't allow that because Pat's paranoid that me and Tone will just make fun of him the whole time. That we'll make it about politics. He also doesn't want Tone.
You're getting warmer.
He doesn't want Tone at his little studio because Tone smells probably, and Pat smells too. And no one wants to have a clam box or a hot box or whatever the hell that's called when the two people fart in the same room. Like that's why. But yes, Tone's a good dude. You should have him on more. It probably will happen at some point in your life. Someone's going to ditch you. Matt Warren's going to ditch you for one of the 75 Cover One podcasts, and then you have to go back, crawling back to Tone Pucks.
My relationship with Tone Pucks is what it usually is. We're fine. We're frenemies.
They're taking a break.
We have
the election.
We have a rivalry. No, we have we're frenemies. We have a rivalry. It's more of he's got kids, young kids, and he really can't podcast. He can't podcast remotely, and it's available only at certain times, and it's not working in terms of that. But hopefully, I will get him on. It's not like I said. There's no juicy feud to report. Not this time anyway. There's been some in the past, just like with me and you down the road before in the past. But there's nothing juicy there going on. I think we're about done here. But Lee says, all right, so about Jordan Poyer. If Poyer doesn't do that, Coleman catches the ball. I don't know about that. It's possible, but if you watch the replay, I can't remember what defender it was, but there was a defender there, and the ball was starting to come loose.
Right.
I don't think he's going to catch that football. It certainly was possible. You could have actually, if you watch the replay, and I'll watch it again tomorrow, it could have been pass interference, which actually would have been worse for Miami than the 15 yards that was called on that play. Lots of check down passing today, the way Sean McDermott loves it. I won't deny that.
There was a lot of look, like I said,
Sean McDermott loves this, man.
Look at the yards per catch, man. It did not look good. Like when you're under 10 yards per catch, that's kind of dicey. But hopefully, as I said, hopefully it was the missing Cooper. It was a part of that, because Allen has run the deep throws on Miami pretty well for his career.
Yeah. Lack of downfield passing will kill this team come big time games. Again, I have a hard time concluding that when they're scoring 27, 30, 33 points in a game. Also, I would say Amari Cooper does give you an element for downfield passing. It opens up Keon Coleman probably a little bit more. Like, here's an example. Jalen Ramsey's probably not on Keon Coleman as much as he was on Sunday if
that's a good point.
Amari Cooper's in the lineup.
Yeah.
We're just about done here, man. The defense plays better on this is the last one I will say. John Sanders says defense plays better on the road for whatever reason. Well, if you watch the Baltimore Ravens game and the Houston game, they kind of turned it around, but that Ravens game kind of a disaster. Just in the nick of time. Colleen. Oh, hello, Joe from Queens.
Hello, Colleen. How you doing?
Just in the nick of time. Last thing, DaQuan Jones is old. Too much obsession with older players.
He's talking to you, Pat. You got too much obsession with older players. You've loved DaQuan Jones forever. You've been on
DaQuan Jones. I said the first couple weeks, DaQuan Jones did not play well. Then he turned it up. He's played well, but he was not good today.
Look, the defensive
got to be better.
Yeah,
the
defensive line had to be better, but we'll see what happens.
Make Anku a starter over at Oliver. I'm sick of the Jekyll and Hyde routine. That's what I'm tortured. Fan 85. Last point. Let's make that the last point because I want to leave us with that. Ed Oliver is Jekyll and Hyde. That's a great take, actually. But the problem. He's
Jekyll and Hyde. He really is.
Jekyll's good, right? Hyde's bad. Is that the way it goes?
Yeah. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
Well, Mr. Hyde comes out in big moments too often with Ed Oliver.
It was like I said, I don't know. It was not. Hopefully, it was an off week, but we've seen them against better offenses have some issues this season.
Can I give you? Again,
it's tough. Real quick. I'm sorry, and then we'll get the hell out of here. But it is tough because they did so well against Miami, the defense, the first time around with the same people on the field. And they even had more injuries because Taron Johnson wasn't playing. So
Ed Oliver was great in week 2 at Miami when they won.
He was, because I remember that. Yeah, because he was invisible the first game.
Yep. Here's my hot take.
Oh, here we go.
Ed Oliver is a key player on this team. He's a well-paid player. Mm-hmm. He's the most talented, by far, interior defensive lineman on this team. It's not close in terms of talent, right? I don't think the Bills can get to the Super Bowl if Ed Oliver is not playing at the level that he's capable of playing at. When you're going to play a light box and have 5 DBs out there 90% of the time, you have to be good in the middle of the field with your 2 defensive tackles. DaQuan Jones is not a stat guy. He's not an impactful guy. He's a lane blocker. He'll clog up lanes, take up blockers. That's what he does when he's playing well. Ed Oliver is the guy who's supposed to be penetrating any gaps, hitting the quarterback, taking running backs down at the line of scrimmage for a loss. The Bills cannot get to a Super Bowl with this defense if Ed Oliver is average or worse, because he was worse than average. He was nothing in this game on Sunday. He has to be borderline great for the Bills to get to a Super Bowl, and there's probably not 3 other guys on this team that are more important to him or to the success of the team, I think, than Ed Oliver.
I agree with that.
Oh, you do?
Yeah, he's a big part of their offense, their defense. Yeah, they need some. It's been missing for the playoffs for a while. Like in the last couple of years, they just don't have that impact guy. Like I can't remember against an elite offense. I mean, like the last good time, the last good game they had against a good offense in the playoffs was what? Lamar Jackson? Like that was COVID year. So no.
Yeah.
Let me ask you. No, I'm going to leave you off with the last thing. Can you guess what seed the Bills are right now in the AFC? I know as we're recording this
Can't
tonight.
be two.
Yep, they're 2. Do you know if the playoffs started today, tomorrow, next week, whatever the fuck? Do you know who they be playing?
Well, let me get, so it wouldn't be Baltimore would be probably the 5 or the 6 Chargers. Baltimore, one of them, Denver.
Denver would be, yeah, they would be playing Denver in the first round, which is interesting. Like we should start like the division's wrapped up. We should start looking at the seedings because it's like they are in like. I don't want to say well, like Pittsburgh had their. Do they have their bye? They're on their bye. I agree. Right now, I think Pittsburgh. Yeah,
they're on their bye this week. They're not. They didn't play this week.
So we'll see. But right now, they control their destiny, I guess. But like,
you're right. And here's the thing. I just told you the last 2 weeks on the show. I remember saying this vividly. I don't care about anything except the AFC East. That's it.
Yeah.
All I care about is the AFC East. Well, now I do care about the conference.
Yeah.
Now I want the Chiefs to drop a game because if they do. The Bills, if they beat the Kansas City in Orchard Park, the Bills will be in the driver's seat as things stand for the 1 seed. So now it is starting to matter. Getting that 1 seed would be huge, or even getting a 2 seed and possibly avoiding a Baltimore or Pittsburgh in the first round, or even the Chargers, who you've been pretty high on and looked good again this week. So sure, man, being a 1 or 2, I think in this conference is ultimately going to prove to be big. Anyway,
yeah, it's definitely about like matchups, like because you don't want to like I don't care like for the wild card, but you're right, yeah,
for sure. All right, guys, that's going to do it for this show. Again, a big win, a fun win, an exciting win, an anxiety-filled win, and good for Tyler Bass, man, to make a franchise record 61-yard field goal and win that game in dramatic fashion. To have things go his way. Professionally, I'm sure tonight, personally for him as well, is really great to see. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a takeaway show after watching film and stuff like that. Matt Warren will be on with me the day after.
Film bro, you're a film bro now. By the way, bro, so
I'm not a film bro.
You're a film bro.
Borderline. All right, I'll be back tomorrow. Then, like I said, Matt Warren will be with me. We're gonna do Bills midseason MVPs and other awards. Matt Warren coming up later this week. Talk to you then.